Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I'm Carolyn for Carolyn Talks podcast. And first of all, I have to thank you for these films and for the film, especially Education. That one touched me a lot personally because I'm dyslexic and I'm also Barbadian. So that there was a lot of the connections that I really related to. So my question has actually to do with Education, the film, and then also the documentary Subnormal, directed by Latanya Shannon. Could you just tell me the challenges that you and your team face when creating the films, the small acts films, and then covering the same topics in documentary format for Subnormal and then Uprising and the other films? Could you tell me what were the challenges and what made it easier to have the stories be similar?
The challenges, well, I think it was just the research. I think that's the main thing, really, and digging into the past, the recent past, and getting people to talk. I never forget being in a taxi with a gentleman and to having a conversation with him, as I always do with taxi drivers, and then in emerging that this gentleman had gone to a subnormal school. And I mentioned it to him. I said, so you went to a subnormal school? And it's almost like he shuddered. It was almost like he heard these words that he hadn't heard for 35 years. And it was a lot of shame involved in what was going on then. So to sort of, as far as Subnormal is concerned, and other things over the course of this series, documentaries and small acts, it was about unearthing, but with care, and to get people to talk. That was the main thing, because again, it was there, but there was a sense that sometimes people didn't want to talk, or to find these things, and sometimes these things were in plain sight, but at the same time, people were blinded to them. And that's what we had to be reminded, that this is wrong. You know what I mean? Look at it again. This is wrong. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, I could go on forever about that with this question and my answer, but I think that personal sort of encounter was very, it was very sort of profound for me.
Yeah, I could see the difficulty, and I myself had challenges with that because I went to a special school back home too. They put me separate from the other kids at primary school in Barbados. So I fully understood and relate to that, and I could see where they were coming from. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
I want to ask you about the reaction of the diaspora, because as I mentioned before, I'm Barbadian. So watching the Uprising films in particular, like Ina Gooding and her family, they're of Bajan descent. And what was the reaction to other members of the diaspora, of the West Indian diaspora, when they saw not only the small acts films, but anyone that you spoke to about these documentaries, because they haven't been released yet, but what has been the reaction to them? Because I remember hearing things about Brixton and hearing these same reggae songs about Brixton playing back home in Barbados. So what has been the reaction across the diaspora from what you know?
Well, my diaspora is America. My diaspora is Africa. My diaspora is South America. My diaspora is West Indian. So I don't want to partitionize, okay, West Indian people. Nah, I don't, that unfortunately, that's not, that I don't like that. And then other people just rubbing hands, being very happy because of it. No, it's us. We come from one place, and we were unfortunately dispersed to others, and never mind. So within the diaspora, within all of our reactions, it's been pretty, it's been pretty, well, in the UK, it's what's interesting about this whole thing is when children, their parents and grandchildren sit down and watch something, all three generations sit down and talk about it, and then they see it. And then afterwards, they talk about it afterwards. Same thing happened with small acts. That was so fascinating for me, because to hear that the families are looking at this and having these discussions, like, Mummy, did that happen? Daddy, did that happen? Granny, did that? Granddad, to hear, cousins and having that kind of conversation, friends from different, and also for their parents to say to their children, look, this is what happened. This is, and the children go, Mum, did that really happen? Yes, it did. And that's been wonderful. That kind of, because often, as sometimes with Black parents, we don't sometimes tell a lot of our pain because it's too painful. Understandable. We want to protect our children, but to have those kind of conversations, I think for me was one of the wonderful best things about the whole thing. The people sharing things, just like Nancy did just now, and whatever. It's very important we have these kind of conversations, because it's one, we heal, and two, we fix things. So that was wonderful. That was wonderful.